All right. Well, I sure hope Dustin comes on here and plays better than that. Because, there's something. I want to say something about this flute. I always say something about it every time I play it. It's such a big thing for me because to me it's like you could just play it like a drone and just play it. You know what I mean? But because of what it's able to do, it's like I just want to just like go crazy. And so the whole time I play it, I'm thinking about it like a guitar. And I'm thinking about all the shapes I play in my guitar and how I can change them onto this, because the flute has those options. You can do that with this thing. And so it's every time I play it, I'm thinking like constantly. So I haven't got to the point with this flute to where I can just roll with it the way that I want to. I could definitely just like pick it up and play it because it's that easy and it's that amazing. It just sounds so great. And you could just play it like a drone, like a triple, and it's just incredible. But the way, as if you've noticed, I like to get really weird, and so it's like, oh man, it's like I play it a lot more than I did when I first got it. When I first got it, it really scared me, and it still does. But in this way that it's like, you hear me talking about being uncomfortable, and how being uncomfortable is one of the biggest blessings that we can have, and it really is to be so familiar with my native flutes, with my solo flutes, you know what I mean, and then to take this triple on with all of these options. And it's not just a triple, like it doesn't just have three different things. You can make it do whatever you want just about with all the different plugs and options and stuff like that. And Dustin really just outdid himself with this. So it's like every time I play it, it's like I feel this thing inside of me, and I know I'm learning every time that I play it because the way I approach it, and it's definitely one of the biggest blessings of 2020 for me. And that flute was designed by Dr. Justin Rolfson and Dustin together. Anyway, before I even get into that and go further, let's see if we could talk to Dustin about it himself, because I'm just going to keep blabbing like I do because I do, and then I just get overwhelmed and emotional because everything's so incredible and I can hardly handle it. So why don't we see if we got Justin on the line. I just got a text message from the United Kingdom. Well, that was crazy. We'll talk about that later. Let's see if we got Dustin on the line. Dustin, are you there, brother?
Hey, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just great. Looks like you're in my mixer. Hey, everybody, can everyone hear Dustin? I think you can. Say yes. Say yes. We got a pretty big delay today. I think we could hear you. We got softly. Yeah, okay. Yeah, he's there.
Softly.
That's okay. That's just because he has a soft, sultry voice. Let's bring him in. There he is. Hey, there's Dustin. All right, awesome. Okay, Justin, Dr. J's here. He says turn up your mic a little bit, but I can hear you okay. You're okay. I'm just a loud talker is all. I'm just a loud talker.
Yeah, I don't think I can turn it up anymore. My gain's all the way up.
Oh yeah, you're fine. You're fine. I can hear you just fine. Yeah, they can hear you. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Oh, you can hear him, can't you? I can hear him good.
Lloydine says barely as well.
I think it's just because they're just comparing us. Right? If I turn down a little bit, there we go. Yeah, it's just, yeah. No, you're good. I see you in my mixer. Everything's good. Hey, welcome. Flute Zaloris. All right, we got some more people hanging out. This is great. So, yeah, we got 18 viewers already, and we haven't even started the interview, so that's great. and it's hardly ever an interview. It's just kind of like we hang out. Um, so, um, again, welcome. And I know I'm just like obviously something always happens, so we just kind of like check out the tech all the time and get the stats from the viewers and stuff. But I mean, right off the bat, you're Dustin Selva, owner and creator of Elemental Flutes, and you made that crazy flute that I just played. And here's I put up a small picture of some of the flutes that you make. These are some pictures of some singles and some doubles. There's a little picture of you, one of your babies in the workshop, so for those of us that don't know you, maybe there's viewers here that have never even heard of your name. Maybe they've never seen a triple flute. Maybe they've never seen a Native American style flute at all. So maybe they've never heard the name Elemental Flutes. What I like to say and what I like to talk about is like, this is a music show. So somehow someone put something in your hands. Oh my gosh, there goes Lloyd Dean. There goes Lloyd Dean gifting subs again. Thank you, Mama Dean. So if I got all confused. Here we go. But no, but at some point someone put a guitar in your hand, you listened to some sort of music, you had an experience, you had a ceremony, something happened to where you wanted to get involved with music more than just accepting whatever might be on whatever random radio is on. And you know what I mean? Whatever it is, you know what I mean? So at some point we all get into, whether we're a listener, a player, an instrument maker, hobbyist, professional, whatever it might be, at some point something happens to where we like kind of start doing that, and then we can't help it. You know what I mean? It's like we have to be involved with music in some way, shape, or form in the way that we like to be involved with it. You know what I mean? Whatever it might be. We all have our own story. You know what I mean? I kind of came from punk rock to metal to folk music to this. However that makes sense. You know what I mean? But we all have our story. And so where'd you grow up? How did all this happen for you? And now that, I mean, you really took a leap, you're actually making instruments. And then of course, I love to talk about that too.
Totally. First of all, yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I grew up and was born and raised in North Dakota. So I definitely have some thicker skin when it comes to cold. But my journey with the flute really didn't start for quite a while. When I was younger, I played, I think, recorder for like a year. I don't even remember playing it. I remember I had one and I tried playing it. Actually played French horn in like middle school, which is a fun instrument because there's 3 valves, and I just played by ear. I couldn't even read sheet music. It's because it's just such a simple instrument. And then the next thing I played was piano. Well, piano I played when I was young till like high school. But from there, my journey with music kind of ended, and I picked it up later on. So when I was like, I think 22, I went down to Peru to an ayahuasca retreat center where I met my wife, and I was there for 3 months, and
Wow.
The last 2 weeks I was there, there was a specific like medicine man or shaman or whatever you want to call him, or maestro if you're down in Peru, and basically he would play the flute just during the day, like not during ceremony. He would just play the flute randomly, and it would just lighten up everything. Like as you're just walking through the jungle, all of a sudden you hear this flute and it just sounds just magical. And I think that was kind of like the first my first inclination that I'm like, I'd like to try to play the flute. And so when I got back to the town in Peru called Iquitos, I asked a cab driver one day, I was like, can you in my really, really terrible Spanish, I was like, can you take me to a music shop? I want to buy a flute. So he took me a half hour to like some grungy like dirt road, potholes everywhere. And there was a bunch of guys playing poker, and this guy, he talks to him and he goes and runs and grabs a flute and starts playing it for me. And I was like, no, 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 no. I wanna like buy a flute. I don't want to like have somebody play it for me. So he goes and grabs his younger nephew or somebody, and he's like, he could speak English really well, and he's like, oh, you want to go to a music shop? And he looked at me like I'm an idiot because I didn't know how to speak Spanish.
Right.
So I finally end up getting to a music shop where they didn't have a flute. So it kind of went in the back burner of my mind, and I traveled again, like India, Nepal, Costa Rica,
Wow.
Hawaii, and when I was living in Boulder, Colorado. Actually, I think it was after Boulder, Colorado too. It was either Boulder, Colorado, or when I went to Hawaii the second time. I finally bought a high spirits flute,
Yeah.
and started to try and learn how to play the flute. And so the flute was just like the first instrument that truly called to me. And I would just play it for hours and make squeaky noises and not read how to play it at all, just try and make songs. And to the point where my wife's like, are you done yet? Like, can we be done for the night? And I'd be like, okay, I'll be done. But then my second the second inspiration that really hit me, I was working again with ayahuasca on Maui, where I was living, with the sound healer ayahuasquero. He was just ridiculous. He would play, I don't know if you know the shruti box. It's like a harmonium.
I've heard of it, yes.
I have one right here. So you just basically pump it and it'll make a drone note. And
Is
so
that
play that?
Is that like a similar thing that's used in like kirtan music? Is it?
It is very similar, except it doesn't have any keys. So
Okay.
This one, you set it to like a specific note, and that's it. The kirtan music, you actually play you pump it, and you can play it so it changes notes.
Got it. Okay. So it's literally it's just a drone, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is, and it's really a drone for the voice, so you can sing along with it, and it helps you stay in tune.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, and Lumira just commented she loves her shruti. I've actually seen her play the shruti with a bansuri that sounds amazing.
Oh, I want one now so bad. That's so cool.
Yeah, I'll try and play it with a flute in a little bit and see if you guys can hear it really well.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, my friend, he would play the shruti box. He would play a drum with his other hand. That also he had a rattle in that hand, and then he would beatbox, all at the same time, and just do some crazy stuff. Like, takes you to some really cool places when you're working with ayahuasca. And he played a drone flute in one ceremony, and I don't think I'd heard a drone flute at that point. When I heard the drone flute, I just got this message. I was like, you need to make your own flute. Like, if you want to like play the flute, you need to make your own flute. So like within a week or two, I was like buying tools to figure out how to make a flute, and like trying to find everything I could find online on how to make a flute. And that's really where my journey started, about like 4 or 5 years ago.
Wow. What a trip. And so then where were you living when you first like grabbed your first hunk of wood, or you or you know what I mean? Like, did you grab a hunk of bamboo? Did you grab some PVC pipe? You know what I mean? Where did you really start to like where were you living, and where, like, how did that whole process go? You know what I mean? Because like I remember, like, I tried to make a couple of flutes. I kind of had this like idea that I was gonna be a flute maker, and it was all in my brain though, because I don't have my brain doesn't work like that. Actually, I thought I was going to, and I made this logo and I did all this kind of stuff, like jumped way before, like I just put the cart ahead of the horse big time. You know what I mean? And then I like actually like went to the store and hardware store, and I bought a couple of things, and it was like, oh, and I went in the backyard and I tried. I was just like, I don't, and I just like backed out of it. It wasn't for me. So like, How did that work for you? How was that process? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, did you go to the hardware store, or did you just grab some PVC pipe, how did you start getting all of the resources together to figure that out, to how to make that branch whistle?
Yeah. Basically, there's a guy on YouTube, Blue Bear Flutes,
Yeah.
and he has a whole bunch of videos on how to make flutes in his way that I believe like his dad or grandfather taught him.
Uh-huh.
And he is Native American, and he sells flutes. He does Mayan temple flutes, he does single flutes, drone flutes, and teaches how to make all of those too. So I started off with him, so I just kind of like, he does it a specific way, so I just kind of followed along and went to Home Depot and bought some wood and tried to make my first flute, and it worked. It made sound, but it wasn't like a beautiful sound. It was a great first experience.
Right.
And after I made a couple, a friend of mine asked, I wanted to do, there's something called combo, which is frog medicine in the jungle. So it's a frog that has poison on it, and it's like a medicinal poison in a way. I mean, you don't want to eat it, but if you burn the skin and just put it on the burn, you'll start flushing out the body of like toxins. It's really like a purgative. You want to drink tons of water, and it kind of flushes out the liver. And so I did a trade for her where I made her a drone flute, and she gave me the combo ceremony. And about a week later, she was like, "Oh yeah, my friend wants 10," and I was like, "Oh, 10 flutes." She's like, 10 drone flutes. I'm like, "Oh, okay." And in my mind, I'm like, "That's too much. Don't do that. You have to leave and go somewhere else in like 2 months." But that's not how I work. So I was like, "Yeah, for sure, I'll definitely do that." So
Of course.
I just like, that's kind of where it started, was like, oh, I could actually sell these and make money. I didn't even have the thought going into it. I just wanted to make myself a flute, and it's just ended up where I'm at. It hasn't stopped. So.
Right. So it literally just happened. Like, you just like, oh, well, I like to make a flute for myself. I made one for someone else. They want 10 more. Okay. And then it just kind of like started happening more and more and more. And now you just make flutes.
Exactly.
Really, like
exactly.
It really just happened that way.
Yeah, I was working with permaculture, or like sustainable landscape installations and design at the time, and was doing that kind of on the side. So I was always kind of doing it half and half, or kind of depended how many orders of flutes or how much work I had for that. Because I climbed coconuts and would like trim the coconuts and then bring all the coconuts down to the ground. And then I started being like a tree climber. I had this idea of like, okay, if I'm going to make flutes, I want to actually like have the wood that I've like trimmed from a tree to make the flutes, instead of like going and buying it somewhere. So I trimmed a few trees, and then I was like, this is very dangerous. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. so because I ended up getting this job that was just ridiculous. This tree was like the biggest tree I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, each branch was a tree in of itself.
Right.
It was like, you probably need like, I don't know, 10 people to wrap your arms like around the base of it. And so this guy asked me if I wanted to trim this tree, and I'm like, sure, yeah, I'll trim your tree. And I go and check it out. I'm like, holy crap, this is ridiculous. I'm like an avatar if I go climb this.
Right.
And so I climbed it, and I ended up like taking down 3 or 4 of like the branches, which were trees, and doing that whole thing. And then after that, I was just like, I did it, I did it, and I don't need to do that again.
Right. Yeah.
I'll let other people do that, and I can try and find tree trimmers or different people that I can get the wood from. So
yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at now.
God, that's wild, man. Like, I didn't expect to hear not even an eighth of what you've been saying, man. This is like when you were telling that story about Peru, I'm just like thinking about like, that's such a crazy story. I mean, not crazy is just the word that comes up. You know what I mean? In a very good way. Like, what an experience. I've had some other friends that have gone through similar experiences with the whole ayahuasca thing, and I just can't imagine to be going through ceremonies like that, and then to be somewhere where you're not familiar, like really, really in it. You know what I mean? And then to hear someone play that flute. And that's what I want to ask too. Like, what kind of flute was it that you were hearing?
I don't know actually. Like, it was probably like a cana, like a Peruvian style rim
Right.
blown flute, but I don't know if I ever even saw what flute he was playing. I just really enjoyed the sound of it.
Yeah. Yeah. What a trip. Yeah. So I mean, like you've already mentioned like six different places that you've been and lived and traveled, and now you're in North Carolina, right?
Yep.
Right, and you're making flutes, and so I've always kind of like assumption like you're making flutes from a lot of Hawaiian woods. Is that right?
Yeah, I have a really good friend of mine. When I was first starting to make flutes on Maui that were actually decent flutes, I put on Craigslist. I was like just selling flutes on Craigslist,
Right.
and he messaged me. And I'm like, hey, I'm a woodworker. I wonder if you're interested in maybe making me a few flutes in exchange for some koa wood. And koa is super expensive.
Mm-hmm.
It's like $45 a board foot, which is like the wood itself costs about $45 per flute, like
Right.
for a single flute. Um, and for a double, it's like $100 per flute. So
Right.
it's also only found in Hawaii. It's it's endemic to Hawaii. It's not really found anywhere else.
Right.
And that's why it's so expensive, because it's also like a really nice wood that's used for furniture. It's used for musical instruments. I know Taylor Guitars makes like curly, like the ripples. Like, I know you have
Yeah.
that, like you were saying it was like a flame maple, like curly maple.
Mm-hmm.
It can be very similar with koa, and the tonality is really really nice. So they sell those guitars for like $3,000, like 3 to 5 grand just for a guitar. So really nice koa can be really expensive. Like, that's the prices I was giving were like the regular, what they call select koa.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it can be upwards to like 125 a board foot for like the really nice stuff. But yeah, I made him like 2 or 3 flutes in exchange for some koa wood, and that's how I kind of got started. And that's where I get all my Hawaiian woods now from, is that same guy from Maui. He's a koa furniture maker, so all of his offcuts from his projects, I buy from him, and he sends them over to me.
I I love that when like the very beginning, you know what I mean? It's like I just heard a random story about this dude, one of my favorite comics, this guy named Theo Vaughn. Like, when he first started, he was touring all over the place, and he wanted to start this show, and da 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 da, and nobody would really help him out. But this little pizza chain in Bend, Oregon, really liked him, and they supported him, and they sponsored the show for $500 a month or whatever it was. And now he's kind of like this kind of big star, you know what I mean? He's doing really well, but he still works with those guys. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like this really amazing organic connection when it's like you're literally just letting things happen in the same way that you ended up making flutes. It's like, it sounds like you just like met this guy. Oh, hey, by the way, here, you know what I mean? I'm Universe. How you doing? And it's like, it's just, these things are just happening. And it's a really interesting thing about, it's like, connecting with the universe and understanding ourselves and grounding and learning how to get out of our own way and letting these really cool things happen. Which kind of brings me to this next little segue that I like to go into with you. And that's talking about music and healing. And, there's so many different people talk and argue even about frequencies. with music and flutes very, very specifically, because there's a lot of flutes tune. The most popular frequency that you see besides 440 is 432. You know what I mean? You see people arguing about it all the time, for whatever reason. You know what I mean? And I think that'd be, honestly, this is a great place to not have an argument, but to have a discussion about all that kind of stuff. And from what I understand, you know a lot about this stuff. And we had a really cool conversation about frequency once that blew my mind. And I never even knew that those things were being studied, that those things have happened. And it seems to be that that's also connected to a big reason why you make flutes. I know from playing this flute and from talking to you that you put all yourself into every single flute, and you really want that flute to heal and to help the person that's playing it, and to also the people that are hearing it. You know what I mean? For all of us, and to get as many flutes out there is like, of course, we all got to make a living, and yeah, you make and sell flutes, but it's like, the more flutes that are in people's hands, the more people are playing flutes. Even if they're playing it alone in their home, they're helping themselves and their home. If they're playing outside their home, then they're helping themselves, their home, and outside their home. You know what I mean? Because all we're doing is playing music. There's no words. We're just playing our flute, and it's beautiful. And so I like to just kind of just get into that and kind of get crazy about that conversation that we started to have a little bit, that we both had to kind of run because we have lives and things we had to do. But, we had a really cool conversation about a month ago about frequency and stuff. And that's when we first talked about, having you on here. And I'm just really curious, take us on a path of that. How did you, we've talked about a little bit of this stuff, but how did you really get into sound healing? What is sound healing for those of us that don't know what that is? Why are there different frequencies? Why is there a debate over it? What has happened? What studies have happened? We've had some really cool conversations about it, and you have some really cool flutes to play that are involved with these kinds of things. So, anyway, lay it on me, man. What do you think about all that I just said? That's a lot, I know.
Do we have 3 hours?
Yes, we have as long as you want. Well, we have until 10:30.
Okay. Where to begin? Okay, so first of all, the whole frequency thing with flutes in 432 and 440. I don't really think that one is necessarily better than the other. I feel like tuning is almost like of the most important aspect of it. If you're out of tune, the relationship of the notes is just like disharmonic and causes some tension in the body. That's kind of like my personal opinion. I've sat with like flutes that aren't in tune, like with in ceremony, and I'm like, whoa, this feels horrible. I don't care what frequency this is. This does not feel good.
Right.
Just get this like da 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 da, and like this this disharmonic sound. But like where 432 and 440 comes from, basically 432 hertz is mathematically in alignment with like the vibration and the frequency of the earth. So with the earth, you have a natural frequency of like around 7.8 something hertz. It's called the Schumann resonance, and the earth actually fluctuates a lot, and that's kind of like an average. The average is around that. So mathematically, I believe, like, this is how I think it is. It's like, if say that was a B and you want to go like 8 octaves up, or say it's like 5 octaves below like the A above middle C, like what you tune the actual 432 frequency to. If that makes sense. It's just really challenging to kind of like describe it to people, because a lot of people don't even understand like what 432 or 440, like what that even means.
Right.
You know what I mean? So to try and describe what that means is like 432 hertz in like the simplest manner is like, like 432 oscillations. So if you have 1 oscillations per second, 1 hertz per second, it's like wom, 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 one. You have two, it's one 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 one. You have
Right,
three, it's
right,
one one. And you keep going faster and faster until you can't actually hear the different like the differences between the oscillations. It sounds like one continuous note, and that 432 is only different by 8 hertz of 440s, and 440 is just slightly higher. 432 was used, I believe, by like Mozart and a couple other famous composers. They would kind of tune their music around 432, but there was so many other composers before it was a standard that would be all over the spectrum from like
right,
420 to like 450 until they all came together and were like, all right, we need to make a standard so that everybody kind of plays in the same tuning and you can play with each other no matter where you go. And they
right,
all decided 440.
right,
And so I don't think it's really like better or worse. It's just like being in tune is like the most important thing.
right.
And then to go into like the healing aspect of it, I believe intention is like most of it, because I actually sat in an ayahuasca ceremony on Maui. It was a group of like 40 people,
Mm-hmm.
and there was somebody playing the ringing bowls, and every time he would play the ringing bowls in different ceremonies, I just didn't feel good. And they were the same bowls. Somebody else would play it, and I would feel amazing.
Mm-hmm.
They're just bowls. It's like
Right.
you can't do much wrong with them. You can hit them. You can
Right.
make them vibrate. And so to me, I'm like, wow, that's really important, is intention, And in one of the ceremonies he's playing, and somebody like is in the bathroom, and all of a sudden you hear this crazy like trying to open the door, and he falls out and lands on one of the bowls and just stops the whole ceremony. Like he cuts himself in his hand.
Oh my
like,
God.
Everybody's just in shock. Like you're on this like hallucinogenic experience, and you're just like, what just happened? But to me, it was like he should have stopped a while ago. And that was just spirit going like, okay, you're done now. Like, let's move on to the next part of the ceremony,
Right.
And so that's kind of where most of my beliefs are. And then when you go into some of the other stuff I've been learning is, I'll try and keep this one brief, is my favorite thing I've been looking up is this guy named Dr. Royal Rife. And he, in the early 1900s, was creating a frequency generator that would put out a specific frequency, and he was healing all these different ailments, from parasites to cancer to anything you could think of. Really, he was healing with specific frequency.
Wow.
And he was also a microscope builder. So he built one of the most powerful microscopes on the planet, where you could see viruses underneath it that were still alive. Right now, when you look at viruses underneath the microscope, it's an electron microscope, and you have to put it in a vacuum, whatever it is you're looking at, which kills whatever it is that you're looking at. So you
Right.
see it's dead.
Right.
And so if you're trying to study a human, it's a lot better to study them alive than when they're dead. You're not going to learn very much, right?
Sure.
So what he found when he was looking under this microscope that he created was that all of the different viruses were different colors, and they were in a different color spectrum because of their frequency. So red being a specific frequency versus blue. And so then he knew the spectrum of like red of like, say, 3,000 to 5,000 hertz. And he would dial in like his frequency generator to match it, and he would just turn it up, and it would explode, or it would like destroy whatever it is that he was looking at. So
Right.
he would find, say, a cancer virus. He called the cancer a virus, and he would find it, match the frequency, and make it explode.
Whoa.
And this was well documented. There's a great 2-hour interview of this guy and this girl who actually still have both the frequency generator and the microscope. And at a specific point in the early 1900s, when he was doing all this, every single person that knew him said they didn't know him. Like all of these major doctors and all the different hospitals around the country, all of a sudden they didn't know him. This guy doesn't exist. And then he
Right.
just kind of went off the radar. And his assistant saved as much as he could before they ransacked the whole operation that they were doing. But
Wow.
there was newspaper clippings of like Dr. Rife healing cancer and frequencies the answer or something like that, you know.
Royal Rife, right?
So Dr. Royal Rife, and he wasn't actually a doctor. They just called him Dr. Royal Rife.
Oh, okay. So like the media called him that or whatever, or his colleagues or
Exactly.
whatever. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
What a trip. What a trip. Dr. Royal Rife. Yeah. And so that's, I mean, and I'm sure that's, I mean, I'm, obviously, that's, this is a very well known story. You know what I mean? It sounds like it's been tried to put underground or, of some sort, like a lot of stuff, you know what I mean? But it seems to be like it's a well known something, you know what I mean? And I'm sure there's millions of people across the world that know a lot about it and that are using these studies that are I'm sure there's a lot of stuff out there, you know what I mean, that you could still see and read and, documentation and this and that, like just like you said. And to really go for these sound healings, you hear about things like sound baths, you know what I mean? You hear about sometimes, I've seen things online where you'll see people laying in a big room and people are walking around the room with a didgeridoo and a flute, literally just like playing over them with specific frequencies and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Lots of that stuff. You know what I mean? And it's really interesting. It's like after really listening to all the debates. You know what I mean? I've had. I don't think I've really debated about it, but I've definitely talked about all the frequency stuff. You know what I mean? And while you were talking about it, just like about intention and being in tune, it really made me think about something. I did this thing, and I'm actually developing a workshop for it. I think I have like 3 or 4 workshops. I'm always in development of, and I'm just like afraid to put them on the website. But whatever. But one of them is about intention and confidence and things like that, and it made me think about. I did this once, so I have all of my toots, all of my toots, all of my flutes. There I go. All of my flutes are in tune, right? So no matter what I play on them, they're all going to be chromatically, you know what I mean, in the right note, right? So I did a practice live actually on Twitch, I don't know, a month or so ago, and I did not stick to any specific scale. I literally just played every single note on the flute that I could. I went out of key. I went out of scale as much as I possibly could. And what I focused on was playing the note right. You know what I mean? Like my intention playing those notes correct. I went, like your ear wants to hear this specific, because we're just kind of trained to hear specific scales and this and that and melodies, because our brains are just kind of trained to hear that over listening to music over time. You know what I mean? But if you put your intention and play all of these wrong notes, you know what I mean? I found that it could be a really beautiful experience, even though you end up going to all of these weird places and notes that you typically wouldn't hear next to each other in this sequence and stuff. But oh, I hear your babies. I hear your babies.
Yeah, my son is just yelling downstairs right now. He loves to do that because of the echo. He
Yeah.
can like hear himself back.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's I'm just kind of blabbing, but I think all of that is just its intention really is for me. I mean, I think that what I'm saying is that I think that we just agree on that. I think its intention really does mean so much. You know what I mean? Because you could really play a song completely out of scale or key or whatever, as long as the flute itself is in um, is in tune, right? It's like you could pick really. I think that you could pick any combination of notes, and then they all sound great if your intention's there and you're not just rushing and doing all these other things. You know what I mean? If your intention is there in that song and in that flute and in those notes, I think that's really where it is.
I
Um,
think I think also the other thing is the how you feel.
mm,
Like if you feel sad, you're gonna play completely differently than if you feel happy.
yep. Yeah.
So if you think about it, like your brain waves and your heart are putting out a specific frequency for how you feel. It's the same as the flute. You're going to play a certain way with how you feel, which is going to cause people to feel a certain way with how you're playing. So if you play and you're feeling really happy, you're probably going to transmit that through your sound.
Right.
So that's kind of how I look at it, is like the most important thing for me is to like be in tune and then really just be present, because what happens for me when I usually play in front of people is my mind just clears. I have nothing and I just feel stoked. I just feel so happy, and
Yeah.
then usually people pick up on that.
Mm.
You know.
Yeah. So it's like, you ever seen Groundhog Day when he says, "Don't drive angry, don't drive angry"? I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. It's one of my favorites. But it's it's the same. It's like sometimes I got work to do. You know what I mean? Like, and like by work I mean if I have to record something, you know what I mean? Whether I'm collaborating with someone or I have a deadline for some recording or something like that, it's like to have a deadline is a really rough thing as a musician, because it's really hard to go and sit down in that chair and to force something out, even if you got the charts in front of you, and you know what I mean. It's like if you're not in a good mood and you're not ready to do it, it's like you're kind of picking up a shovel or you're just laying bricks and you're just like you're just getting it done so you can hurry up and get to your lunch break and then hurry up and get home and take your work boots off. You know what I mean? So yeah. Well, you just talked about playing live a little bit. How do you feel about playing one of those flutes behind you for us?
For sure. Let's see if you guys can hear the harmonium or the shruti box.
Okay.
And we'll see if I can play along with that.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Does the mic pick that up?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Very faintly, but I think that'll be nice. Yeah, that'll be nice. Yeah, Helen says yes.
All right.
All right. This is a cool conversation, man. Thanks for everyone hanging out. I mean,
Totally.
yeah, we've kept all of our viewers for the most part the whole time, and this is a really neat conversation. I love talking about this stuff. And this whole Dr. Royal Rife thing is so interesting to me, and it's just this whole to me this is a whole different take on like the native flute world, and we're really getting into it, and I think it's just so fun. So I'm excited to see what you're gonna do, man. Take it away. What flute you playing? What's going on here?
This was one of my my practice flutes from a while back. This is Koa. I love this flute, but I don't want to sell it because this hole just got so big. As well as it sounds really, really good, and with my shruti box. So, so this is the key of C sharp, I believe.
C sharp. Okay.
All right, let's get this better. Switch that up. I think it's C, actually. There we go. Key of C. So the cool thing about the shruti box is that you can do two notes at once. Let me just see the next one. There we go.
That's cool.
be pretty challenging to do when you're pumping your knees together to try and make the shruti box actually play.
Yeah.
So I hope that came through pretty well.
Wow. No, that thing is cool. Yeah, so I'm and I always say it wrong, kirtan, right? Or kirtan or whatever. I always say it wrong. But I'm a huge fan of that kind of music. My dad turned me on to a guy named Krishna Das about 20 years ago, and since then he's been my main guy, and he's a lot of people's main guys, you know what I mean, to go to for that kind of music. He's just he's a very very he's like the pop star of kirtan, I guess, whatever that could possibly mean. But I've just always loved that drone, you know what I mean? And I think that's a big reason why I like the drone flute so much too. You know what I mean? It's like it has this, there's not a lot of emotion in that music, but at the same time there's a whole bunch. You know what I mean? It's like, and that's probably the wrong way to say it. It's like it's not complex, but it comes and goes with waves at the same time. You know what I mean? It just has this very, very grounding thing, it makes me think of that whole, you know what I mean? That whole kind of thing, and Krishna Das does that a lot in his music, you know what I mean? He'll have some, some like, like a little, something like that, he just does this long thing, you know what I mean? And then there'll be a little bit of melody behind it. And he usually does, if there's a flute, it's some sort of bamboo flute or something like that. But there's something about that drone that's very, very grounding. And I mean, I want one of those things. What's it called again? A shruti box?
Shruti.
Shruti. Unreal. Yeah, I want one of those things. And I bet is that something that's hard to make?
I would imagine it's a bit challenging to learn how to make it. I mean, most anything, once you know how to make it, it's not too challenging. So I'm sure it's a bit challenging to learn, because like it's basically like a large harmonica, right? That you're just pumping air through it, right. And then you just set which one's going off,
Okay. Lemuria Yoga says Shruti means sound. Sounds like and then my mother-in-law says, Tommy, that sounds like the Mystics on the Dark Crystal. Skeksis, or whatever they're called. It's funny. Lemuria Yoga, that means, I wonder if that's connected to the old landmass Lemuria. Is that the same thing? I'm just wondering if that's part of the.
It's a bit different, because that's Lemira.
Okay, there you go. Lemuria. Okay. Oh yeah, Lemuria is spelled with Lem. Okay. See, we're just talking about sound and frequencies and stuff like that, so my head just down this rabbit hole. So you know what I mean.
Yeah, and Lemira is actually a friend of mine. She's gonna start promoting. She has been promoting some of my flutes.
Oh, how cool!
I think on what's the platform? TikTok. I think on TikTok she has almost like 1 million followers now.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, and she's doing like sound healing clips of her playing flute and different stuff like that. So very cool. Very cool. Check her out.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Now I'm thinking. I think I recognize that name.
Well, I think High Spirits also is.
Yeah, I think I've seen her on.
She's up on High Spirits.
Yeah, before I'm not on Instagram anymore, but I think I was friends with her on Instagram, and I used to see her. She would play in nature a lot, right, and just play flutes, really close up to nature and stuff. Yeah, welcome, right on. Okay, see, putting things together here. I love it. That's fantastic. Well, welcome.
So I have a drone flute that I could play if you guys want to hear.
Oh,
This is a
please.
Koa drone flute.
Please, 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 please. I want you to play all of them.
So, this one, the way that I make them, they have the 3 plugs, so that you
Yeah.
can choose which drone note you're playing with.
Oh, wow.
So you can play it with like this is F sharp. And then you can switch to the next note ups by taking out this bottom plug, so you have A. And then you have B. And then this one allows you to play mode 4, because this is your bass of mode 4.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then you have the C sharp, um, which you can play like how you normally play it. Or you can switch your hands and play it like a what's the word? A
Mayan.
harmony flute.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You just gave me so
So
many ideas, Dustin. You just gave me so many ideas for the flute that you. Oh gosh. Okay, keep talking.
so when you actually opened up your package and started playing it, you were trying to play it like a harmony flute,
Uh huh.
but you were lifting up the ring finger on this one,
Uh
and
huh.
that brings you out of the pentatonic scale, so it wasn't working properly. So when you do this, keep this one down and just do the top two.
Okay, I get it. I get it.
Because once you do this, it throws
Right.
it off.
You go into that. That's that
Um,
weird seventh thing.
exactly. So
Right.
you have to just like when you're setting up your configuration, you can um, set it up in so many different ways now. Because you could play it like a single, and then you can add in the double with the drone, and then you can switch to play it like this. But then you can also do the same thing with your B flute.
Wow.
So yeah, it's awesome. Anyways, I'll play this for you guys, and the way that I like to play this is I like to do it as a single, add in the drone, and then play the harmony. So here's
Awesome.
also there's a dolphin
Oh, I
engraving
love that.
with waves along the sides,
Wow.
and then I believe that's the I'm gonna get this one wrong, but I think that's the heart chakra. And so this flute's actually available. I'm just finishing it up now.
Oh wow.
So here you guys go.
All right. Dang. Man. What's that one made out of?
This is Koa.
Gosh. Oh, look, we got Simon. Welcome, Simon. Welcome, Simon. We got some more folks joining us. Welcome, welcome. Wow, brother, that is so cool. God, I want, there's something weird about flutes, and I'm sure, everyone can, every single person. Hold on a minute. There we go. Every single person that has a native flute, for the most part, and then once you get your second or third one, all of a sudden it's like you need every single one of them. You know what I mean? And no matter how many flutes I got, I think I have a flute in every single key now, except for one or two. And now I got a handful of drones too, starting this year. And now it's just like, no matter what, every single flute that I see anyone play, I want every single one of them. I want another one of your drones so bad, even though I haven't figured out how to play this one yet. I still want like 4 more. Like, I just want to like get crazy. Thank you for the bits. Thank you for the bits. Oh yeah, I wanted to say real quick to everybody. Yesterday, we had a hype train yesterday because we were doing bits yesterday. And here, I'll go to my screen real quick to show you what it was. That should pop up. So yeah, this is our little bit goal today. And we haven't even started, but we have a new bit goal. So yesterday we had a hype train, and so once the bit goal goes up and stuff like that, we'll have another hype train, and that was fun yesterday. So anyway, just wanted to mention that because that was really crazy that happened at the very end of the stream yesterday. I was about to hang up, and then all of a sudden this crazy thing happened, and it was really awesome. So, but man, I don't know. I'm just kind of at a loss for words now. I just want to like kind of keep talking and keep playing music. And do you have any other crazy flutes behind you that we could take a look at and talk about?
Sure. This one. I'm sorry to get into this. So this one is an F sharp contrabass. I know that I think. Yeah, most in the Native American flute community, it's a contrabass, I believe.
Sure.
So this flute, I did a thumb hole in the back just because the bottom 3 holes are a bit far to reach.
Oh, weird, yeah.
So you're doing your thumb on your bottom hand. This one I believe is also 432. So, do you guys want to hear the shruti box again, or do you want it just to be a plain flute solo?
Oh, well, let's see, guys. What do you guys think? Do you guys want to just do the contrabass flute on its own? You guys want to hear the shruti box again? Helen says just flute. Flute solo. We got 2 votes for flute solo. All right, let's do that.
All right. Sounds good. Oh, this is also, I should mention, this is my favorite wood to work with on the planet. This is called camphor, Camph, I believe OR. And the smell of it is ridiculous.
Yes.
I know that Tommy has a mouthpiece of that, and he's like, it's almost too much for me,
It's sometimes
an intense smell. It's an intense smell.
It very much reminds me of this stuff. It's totally different but similar, of the Palo Santo wood. You know what I mean? Of like the holy wood, because I burn it sometimes for little ceremonies and stuff. And it's the same but totally different. I mean, it's completely different, but it has the same kind of, maybe it's has the same kind of, we're talking about energy and stuff. So maybe it does something to me that's similar that Palo Santo does to me or something, because God, it does. It almost tastes like you could eat it sometimes. You know what I mean? Anyway, it's just wonderful.
It's crazy. It's like it's in tiger balm. So that the oil from it is what the smell, the really pungent smell in tiger balm is where that comes from.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So when I work with this in my shop, my whole shop is just like purging my sinuses because it's just really pungent smell, So
Good for
that's
allergies, right?
exactly. So that's why it's one of my favorites, is because working with it is such a pleasure for me. I really enjoy the smell of it.
Yeah.
And then the tonality is great. It's like a medium wood. It's not like hard or soft. It's kind of right in the middle. And so yeah, it's like all around. It's easier to work with than like a harder wood, but it also carries like a nice tonality to it, like a harder wood. So,
Yeah.
So yeah, here's the F sharp contrabass.
Awesome. Wow, man. Were you playing major there for a sec?
I was messing around,
You were
yes.
messing around. Well, it sounded great. It sounded
Thank you.
great.
Yeah,
So,
I like to kind of mix and match, like within the same song sometimes, going from like minor pentatonic to like playing the gypsy scale to doing some major and back and forth. 'Cause
yeah.
then it kind of feels like it's multiple flutes in the same flute, you know?
Yeah, I think that goes back to like what you originally said, and I was kind of just backpacking on about intention. You know what I mean? Like you really, I mean, it's like we're when we first start an instrument, you know what I mean. You're taught to stay in scale and everything like that, and I think that's important to learn. You know what I mean? But it's like this is a really, really, really good way. I say that it's almost every time. It's like, I've heard from all these jazz musicians, and it's like a famous quote from someone. They said it, you know what I mean? Learn all the music theory that you can. Go to school, learn it all, get really good at all of it, and then forget it. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing. It's like, I know that you know how to play every single scale on the flute. You make the flutes, for crying out loud. You know what's going on. So you know how to play all the scales. But being able to play all the scales that realistically, you're just playing whatever note you feel like, and you're just using this parameter that but you're literally just landing on the notes well. You know what I mean? Like literally, that's really what you end up doing is you stay in these parameters that you understand a little bit, but then because you understand that, you're able to throw it all away and to really rely on your intuition and where you feel like it can go. And then the more you get used to your flute, you kind of know where you're gonna go. Like you could really connect your mind and your brain and your breath to like really da 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 da. Like you see a lot of jazz bass players be playing bass and they go doo, and they'll like sing while they play. All that kind of stuff. It's really, really, really hard to do. But it's similar, I think that's the coolest thing in the world. And I think that's a really, really cool lesson for people, a lot of people that have just started playing flute, you know what I mean? And I hope a lot of folks here watching, now like want to buy one of Dustin's flutes and really kind of explore what everything that, that you're doing. I mean, That was a good. Helen said, I just did a great imitation of a bass player. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, just to like, there's a lot of flute players when you start out, it's like you just it's good. Thank you for the gifted sub. Thank you. Welcome, Simon, to the ceremony. You are now a subscriber, brother. But see, I lose it every time something like that happens. I just lose my whole train of thought. It just goes away. But I think I was talking about just oh yeah. So like when flute players first start out, it's like you don't have confidence. You know what I mean? You got to get your fingers in shape like that. But knowing that realistically, if you play the note well and your intention is there, I mean, you can go everywhere. You know what I mean? A lot of people, what they just heard, they're not going to understand. I mean, because I'm a music nerd and I'm used to it. I heard these different places that you went and I went, oh, here, oh, he sharpened this and oh, he did this and he went to, I heard it. You know what I mean? But to the listener, someone who's just going to sit back and listen, that was just an absolutely beautiful, flawless song. And they wouldn't hear or understand where it could have gone. You know what I'm saying? Kind of thing. We just got a pop up in the screen. I'm like, oh, what is that? Oh, it's Justin O'Care. He's sending me text messages and they're popping up on my screen. Okay, we're just making sure about Justin. He's gonna start at 10:30-ish, so we'll find out. We're gonna be rating Justin in about 10 minutes or so, but we're waiting for him to set up. He had some tech issues this morning, so we're just making sure that's all set up. So, gosh, man, we've almost taken up the entire time, and that's really cool. And we're just talking and just playing flutes. And what I really like about this show, Dustin. I mean, besides that, it's you and that you're incredible and that your flutes are awesome and all this stuff. It's like this is there's zero reverb on this. There's nothing like that. We're really hearing this. You know what I mean? We're not doing any of the Tommy tricks or any of that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? We're just doing it. Okay, so Helen's begging you do you have a triple back there that you could play for us?
Not like the one that you have.
Do you have a triple?
I do have a triple, but it needs some refining. I could definitely talk about it though.
Yeah. Helen. Helen wants to talk about it. What flute do you want to talk about, Helen? We have about another 10 or 12 minutes to hang out. What flute did you want to talk about? The triple that he made me, or one of the crazy ones that he has on him? Barry says in the raw he liked it.
We can also talk a little bit about. I'm not sure about where Justin's at, because I'm making some crazy flutes for him. So I'm not sure if he wants me to say anything about it, but basically I've never seen anything like it. So.
Yeah. Well, Helen's really curious because she basically wants one, I think, exactly like mine. I think that she wants like the part 2 of mine. And so I think she really kind of like wants to. I mean, I know you did a YouTube video of it, and I just shared it actually earlier this week. But I think that she's kind of wanting to talk about that. I mean, you and Justin, this is a brainchild of you guys. And one of the first things that I noticed about that really helped was that one of the totems is pushed down further, and that enabled you to be right here. I mean, you know what I mean? You really got it's like you got this fingerboard. You know what I mean? It's different. It's like you need to call it a fingerboard. It's like a fretboard. You know what I mean? To me, I'm a guitar player, so I think about it like that. You know what I mean? And when I first met Justin, when he sent me this random message out of the blue, it's like, "Hi, I'm Justin." I'm like, "Hi, how you get?" No idea who he was. He sent me his first YouTube video of with that triple that he had made from Dana Ross, and I saw him doing all of these things. You know what I mean? Like reaching across the triple and just what is going on? And then once me and Justin became friends, and me and you became friends, I understood. That's a big reason why this happened, is so you could really have access to right here. So I know that's part of it, but that's really all I know. The only design difference that I know that you guys went, oh, hey, I have this idea. So Yeah, I mean, you're to me, you're a weird scientist. You know what I mean? You're like Pinky in the Brain trying to take over the world with flutes. You know, like this is crazy. I can't. I mean, go for it. I'll just keep rambling.
Great intro. All right, let's do it. So yeah, I mean, this is definitely Justin's brainchild. I've made one flute very similar to it before. I believe it was an F, and